Indian Prime Minister Modi is being unfairly portrayed as a fascist, with Indian intellectuals contributing to this misleading narrative. Do you agree with it?
There is absolutely nothing fascist about Narendra Modi. I'm sorry if I laugh when I say that, but I think fascism is often used as a generic political insult by people who have no understanding of actual fascism and how it worked. Fascism is a totalitarian ideology in which a party in Italy, originally the fascist party in Italy, the fascist party of Benito Mussolini. In Germany, of course, it was the Nazi party of Adolf Hitler. In Russia, it was the Communist Party of Lenin and Stalin. But in each of these cases, there are totalitarian regimes, and all three of these totalitarian regimes share common features, as famously recognized by the Jewish German philosopher Hannah Arendt, but also by people even at the time in the 1930s and 40s who were writing about the similarities between these regimes. These regimes all had what are called strong party systems in which the party controlled everything. So every aspect of life was conducted within the party. Now, you could say that there's some echoes of that in the way that the RSS, the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, is on the one hand, it is a volunteer organization, but it has a youth group, it has a religious group, the Vishwa Hindu Parishad, it has a labor union, it has a political party, the BJP, and you could make that comparison to fascism in that, well, Benito Mussolini's fascists had a fascist youth group, a fascist political party, a fascist labor union. But that's where the similarity ends. And the big difference is that in fascism, there is no tolerance for alternative mechanisms. So the only way that we could call the BJP fascist would be if they outlawed non-RSS labor unions, if they outlawed non-RSS youth groups, if they outlawed non-RSS women's organizations, if they outlawed non-RSS religious organizations. I mean, Adolf Hitler literally created a fascist Lutheran church and prohibited the established Lutheran church from operating and replaced it with his fascist Lutheran church. There's nothing like that in India or associated with the BJP or with the person of Narendra Modi. Now, I understand that many people dislike Narendra Modi, and that's fine. Of course, you can like or dislike any particular political leader. Many people dislike the BJP, and again, that's fine. You can like or dislike a political party. But the fact that you dislike a political party or its form of organization or its agenda, or you think the party is too successful, it doesn't make it fascist, right? I mean, that word has really deep and troubling connections to things like war, genocide, complete disregard for international norms, and that's simply not what we see in India today, or in any prospective India in the future. Let me just make one last observation. Fascism in Europe was intimately connected with aggressive war, meaning that every fascist regime, in order to validate and legitimize its rule, immediately started wars with other countries. And that started with Mussolini. Mussolini became the fascist dictator of Italy in the early 1920s. He immediately invaded Ethiopia. He invaded Libya. He invaded Albania. He invaded Greece. Right? I mean, he didn't succeed in most of those. He was a very poor military leader. But nonetheless, his regime depended on external aggression to legitimize itself at home. And that's because Italians did not view him as their elected leader, elected through due process. He could only maintain his legitimacy by always uniting Italians around this external war. Hitler did the same thing. Hitler came to power. What does he do? He invades, Austria. He invades Czechoslovakia. He invades Poland. He starts World War II. What happened in Russia the minute that the Soviets came to power in Russia? They invaded Poland. They invaded Ukraine and conquered it. They invaded Finland. They invaded the Baltic states of Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. Again, they invaded for that matter. There was a war between the Soviet Union and Japan over Mongolia. They invaded Mongolia. So again, this is a pattern that's so intimately connected with fascism, and people might say that Narendra Modi and the BJP have acted aggressively in a strike against terrorists in Pakistan. It simply doesn't compare. On top of that, I have every reason to believe that a Congress government in India would have done the same. That is, any rational, patriotic government in India would have struck out against foreign terrorists who were attacking the country. There's no evidence of the use of war as a legitimating tool in India, and that's a core part of what it means, or it's a core corollary of what happens when you have a fascist regime.